Hello to the champions. So, what this chat is about, and it is a chat, so if you have questions, I think there is a chat section. Sarah, is that available for people to put in their questions? Okay, so I wanted to do this to talk about weight and what we need to know about weight and nutrition. Because we all are survivors. So let's go to the next slide. So this is me on my 60th birthday, a picture of health. And my cardiologist, many of them in my community, told me over the previous 10 years that the pressure in my chest was nothing to worry about because my heart was just fine. And the pressure in my chest was all in my head. It was just anxiety. I was their healthiest patient. Go to the next slide. And here I am 2 days after my 62nd birthday. And I had open heart surgery at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville because the pressure on my chest was this ascending aortic aneurysm. And I'm here, thankfully, I'm here today to talk to you. And part of the reason I'm here today is because of the way I ate throughout my life. Because this 4.5, and you can see it right here, this 4.5 ascending aortic aneurysm didn't burst. And it didn't burst because I did not have a lot of the plaque buildup. It was still elastic enough. So, next slide. These two previous slides are because we all, as we know, we all have a story to go with our surgeries. We all have a story to go with our hearts. You cannot always look at the outside and know what's happening on the inside. So, the next slide. What we're going to talk about today is exactly what is BMI, because I think it is very misunderstood. What makes up a healthy weight? Why do we need fat? And what happens when our body has too much adipose tissue or too much fatty acid or too much fatty tissue? How can I eat to nourish my body? What is this thing called basal energy expenditure? And what does that have to do with weight loss? And how do I need to eat to keep my body healthy? So, next slide. The first thing I want to talk about is BMI. BMI was a formula devised in 1830 by a Belgian mathematician. And in 1985, the National Institute of Health started to use BMI to define obesity in the United States. Now, this formula is right here. It's your weight in kilograms, which is pounds divided by 2.2, divided by your height squared, times 703. That's your BMI. It's just a formula. That is all it is. So, next slide. This is the BMI classification system. If you're below 18.5, you're considered underweight. If you're 18.5 to 24.9, that is considered normal. If you're 25 to 29.9, that's considered overweight. And over 30 BMI is considered obese. Now, remember, it was not until 1985 that the National Institute of Health started to use this. And if you look at the history of obesity in the United States, we really did not have obese people in the United States until the mid-'80s. I have a lot of thoughts about that. That could be for another talk. It has to do with highly processed, ultra-processed foods and how it's changing our microbiome, how it's changing how our body functions. But this is how, in 1985, the National Institute of Health decided to define obesity. Next slide. So my question to you, and you can just type in yes or no into the chat. Whoops. Can you have a higher BMI and still be healthy? How many of you think that's true? I see yes, yes. 2 yeses, yes. 3 out of 5. So we have a majority of people who say yes. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, somebody said BMI is not a valid measurement of health. Yes, you can have a higher BMI and still be healthy. And that is why in my practice, we look at body composition. So body composition is going to be the measure of your muscle mass, your skeletal mass, your visceral fat, your subcutaneous fat, and water. So visceral fat is the fat around your middle or the fat around the liver. Subcutaneous fat is the fat underneath your skin. We measure this with bioelectrical impedance. In 1996, I bought my first bioelectrical impedance machine. And since 1996, I started to use this in my practice when I started to help people with understanding weight and nutrition. Because when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s, I don't remember people being like obese. We called them big bone girls. And these were girls who were athletes. And we had husky boys. My brother played football, and my mother bought him husky size clothes. But these were not people who were necessarily over fat. And all of a sudden, I had all these people coming into my office saying, I'm obese. And I'm going, wait a minute, let's find out really what's going on. So I hooked them up to the body composition machine. And now you can buy a smart scale for $30 on Amazon and get all of this information. But a disclaimer, if you have a pacemaker, you cannot use it. Okay, so next slide. So now let's look at healthy percentages of body fat. We have the essential amount of fat, which is what our body needs to function. And then we have the amount of fat, 14 to 20% for women that are athletes. We have a fitness level of fat, which is 21 to 24% fat. And then we have average amount of fat, which is 25 to 31% for women. If you have over 32% fat, that is considered over fat. Now, am I just pulling this out of my head? No. Everything I'm presenting to you today has a verifiable source, and this source is from the American College on Exercise. And the other thing for you to know, I have my master's degree in mental health counseling, my Bachelor of Science degree in dietetics and nutrition from University of Wisconsin-Madison, and my master's in mental health counseling from Webster. So just so you know, I'm not just here presenting these ideas like, wait a minute, I think you should know this stuff. This is verifiable information. Okay, next slide. Now, why do we need fat? It keeps our body warm. So I treat eating disorders. When I have someone come in and they have anorexia and they have less than that essential fat that we looked at, their body starts to grow little hairs like a newborn. And that those little white hairs are called languole. And those hairs are to keep their body warm because they don't have enough body fat to keep their body warm. So we have an essential amount of fat that we need to keep our body warm. We also need fat to keep our brain functioning and our nerves functioning, because the outside of our nerves are made up of omega-3 fatty acids. The myelin sheath is kind of like the plastic coating on an electrical wire. That's what our nerves, the outside of our nerves are. The fat is used for. We also need fat to form hormones. And fat is a long-term energy source. If you're running through the airport and you missed a meal and you've got to catch a flight and you've got to get up and go, and you don't have anything in your stomach, guess where that energy is going to come from? It's going to come from your fat stores. So it's a long-term energy source. The other thing, as we get older, we need some push for the tush, because if we fall and we don't have anything to break that fall, to protect our hips and pelvis, guess what? It could have catastrophic circumstances if we have, bones that were falling. Next slide. So I mentioned the brain, and your brain is 60% fat. It uses cholesterol, glucose, and ketones for fuel. So calorie-wise, your brain is going to use 500 to 600 calories a day, just your brain. So I'm asking you, if you have someone telling you to eat 600 calories a day, how is your brain even going to function? I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. Next slide. So what happens in the body when there's too much adipose tissue? So that's going to be greater than 32% for women. Next slide. We're going to talk about it. So when we have too much adipose tissue, and by the way, in the next 5 years, the nomenclature, the words around what we call obesity now are going to change, because the American Medical Association now knows, as well as Weight Watchers, which I guess I've read articles in January, Weight Watchers, different Jenny Craig. I don't even know if Jenny Craig is in business anymore, but Weight Watchers came out and they apologized to the public, because they apologize for telling people to have more willpower. Because what we know about obesity, this is an adiposity disease. This is a disease where the fat tissue wreaks havoc on the body. So it's going to be called, instead of obesity, it's going to be called a disease of adiposity. So get ready for this, because people have been shamed and they should not have been shamed. It has nothing to do with willpower. And that's what I have been telling my clients for the last 20 years, but I've been a lone voice in all of this. So not too many people have heard this, but it doesn't have anything to do with willpower. It has to do with what's going on inside the body. Now, one of the systems that is regulated with adipose tissue is ghrelin and leptin. And these two these two hormonal systems regulate our appetite. Next slide. So in a functional system, so that would be less than 32% of adipose tissue. Ghrelin is a hormone in the stomach, and it signals the brain that you're hungry. So what does that feel like? Well, you're hungry, you're starting to you have that rumbling in your stomach. When I'm older now, I'm 65, I don't necessarily get like the growling like I used to when I was younger, but I'm feeling like a little off in my stomach. So I eat something and that goes away. It's my stomach telling my brain it's time to eat. After I eat, if I have a normal amount of adipose tissue, leptin, which is a hormone in adipose tissue or fat tissue, is released, and it tells our brain to stop eating. It tells our brain, you know what? The organism, the body ate enough, you can stop eating. The body has satiation, or you're satisfied, you're full. You can stop eating. Next slide. Now, when there is too much adiposity, that ghrelin-leptin system becomes dysregulated. So what happens is you eat, the brain is getting the message from the stomach, from the ghrelin, that you're hungry. But the leptin, the cells, the brain becomes resistant to the leptin. And so what happens is the brain never gets a signal from the leptin to stop eating. So it's like when I worked with bariatric patients, and this was in the early 2000s, I said to them, I asked them, is it like you're always hungry and you never fill up? And they said, that is exactly what's happening. And this is the reason, because their brain was leptin resistant. Next slide. Now, let's look at how blood sugar plays into this. Next slide. So, my question to you is, can you have normal blood sugar and still have metabolic disease? Yes or no? We have 6 people here. What do you think? Can you have normal blood sugar and still have metabolic disease? Yes or no? Yes? 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 Okay, 50% say yes. 100% of the people who logged in. And next slide. And you're absolutely correct. And this has to do with insulin resistance. So, under normal circumstances, we eat a meal, we have carbohydrate as part of that meal, our insulin shoots out from our pancreas, the cells are operating, the mitochondria is operating normally, it opens the door for the glucose goes in, we make our ATPs, we move on with our day. But in insulin resistance, what is happening is we may have too much blood sugar in our system. The cells become insulin resistant, so the insulin cannot get all the blood sugar in, only a little bit of it. That cell membrane is closed, insulin resistance, and so there's more blood sugar left in the bloodstream. Next slide. And this is what insulin resistance looks like. Fatigue, constant hunger, inability to lose weight, cravings for sugar. Why would that be? Because your cell is not getting the blood sugar. And so your body is going, feed me, feed me, feed me. But carbohydrate is the last thing that you're needing at that time, but your cells don't know that. Fatigue after meals, migrating aches and pains, upper abdominal obesity, hormone imbalance, high cholesterol, low thyroid, and increased fat storage. So these are all symptoms of insulin resistance. Next slide. So what happens when there's more blood sugar than the insulin can get into the cells? Your body is going to store that extra energy as fat, and that's why it's hard to lose weight if you're insulin resistant. And/or the blood sugar that's left inside the veins, the capillaries and your arteries, is going to combine with protein to form glycated protein, which can contribute to the plaque buildup. It's not just saturated fatty acids. It's not just cream, butter, that sort of thing that builds up inside the veins. It's also the extra blood sugar. And that's why diabetics, type 2 diabetics, also have to have their, their coronary artery system managed as well. Okay, next slide. So I threw out the term glycated protein. What happens is the protein or albumin that's in your bloodstream and sugar will combine, and it's called glycated protein, and it's a sticky substance. Do any of you, are any of you bakers? Yes, no? Let's go to the next slide. Have any of you ever made fondant? So fondant is the combination of sugar, sucrose, which breaks down to glucose, and protein, or protein, which is egg whites. So we take powdered sugar and egg whites, which is albumin, we whip them, and that makes the fondant. So here is a picture of what is going on inside, next slide, inside your arteries from the extra blood sugar. Now, I've been told that I can be a real Debbie Downer like Chrisanna. Come on already. But remember, I survived an ascending aortic aneurysm. So I'm just letting you know, this is what can happen, but it is all reversible. So let's go to the next slide. So what can you do to prevent all of this from happening? Remember, we don't have these classes anymore in high school, but remember home ec. We learned the basic 4 food groups. Eat real food. Stay away from processed foods. So you have grains and cereals, you have fruits and vegetables, meats and dairy and healthy fats. And make for sure they're real. I tell people, the longer they stay on your shelf, the longer they're going to stay in your body. In fact, Jane, let me introduce Jane Silvestri. She is a doctoral student. She's doing her residency with me in eating disorders this winter. She's a doctoral student from Rutgers University. She's working on her PhD in clinical nutrition. And we had a client this morning where she has lots of food allergies, leaky gut, and we were talking about cereal. One of her go-to foods is cereal, but guess what she likes to eat? What was it? It was Captain Crunch or something, some sugary cereal.
Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops. And so we're telling her, take that out of your cupboard, get rid of that, because all the food dyes and all of the stabilizers in that is not doing your gut microbiome any good. All right, next slide. So the other key to, we were talking about adipose tissue, is knowing your portion sizes. So I usually, like for weight loss, I give 2 servings of starch and 2 servings of fruit a day. I have a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, Chrisanna. And Weight Watchers, they tell me I can eat all the fruit I want. Well, you know what? Weight Watchers is not treating your blood sugar. And Weight Watchers is not treating your coronary artery disease. So I want to keep that blood sugar low. And a serving of fruit has 15 grams of carbohydrate in it. So if you're eating 4 fruits a day, you're eating 60 grams of carbohydrate just in fruit. That doesn't even include the other carbohydrates you're going to be eating. So know your portion sizes. The other thing is your meats. Your meats that you eat are going to be an edible portion. So if you are going to be going for like 6 ounces to eat a portion of protein for your dinner, and you're at a restaurant and it says an 8-ounce filet, and you're going, oh, well, that's a little bit too much for me. No, because it's edible portion. At a restaurant, they're not going to say we're only serving you 6 ounces. No, they're going to say what they buy. They buy an 8-ounce filet, and when it cooks down, it's going to be the edible portion is 6 ounces. So enjoy that. Enjoy that meal. Okay, next slide. I always say make it calorie worthy. So we were talking about portion sizes. The portion size of a bagel for 1 starch is 1/4 of the bagel. Now, if you were my patient and I only gave you 2 portions of starch a day, you could only eat half a bagel. Now, I would say to you, if you wanted to use 2 of your starches for half a bagel, don't make that a bagel from your grocery store in a plastic bag. Go to a bagel store, or if you live in New York, make for sure you go and have a real bagel. And if you wanted to eat all 4 servings of starch, that whole bagel, eat it. Make it calorie worthy. Just know that you ate over what your normal portions were. Because it's not what you do, it's not what you do 10% of the time. It's what you do 90% of the time. Our bodies like to keep a homeostasis. So if they get used to something, and what we're doing 90% of the time, what you're doing 10% of the time, is not really going to matter that much. Okay? So whatever you do, make it calorie worthy. Next slide. Now, we're talking about food lists. This is my website, nutritionpsychotherapy.com. I'm not doing this for you to contact me. I am doing this to show you at the bottom of this first page is a little tab that says Client Portal. So you can go to nutritionpsychotherapy.com, first page, click on Diet or Client Portal. Next slide. And it's going to take you to this client resources page. And what you can do is put in the password. The password is Chrisanna, my first name. And what you can do is you can download a whole list of all different portion sizes. You're going to have a food list with carbohydrates, fruits, dairies, proteins, fats. And so you will know what a portion size is of a starch. You will know what a portion size is for a serving of fruit. I always say, like for fruit, you get more bang for your buck with watermelon. You can have 1¼ cups of watermelon, but you can only have 3/4 cups of cantaloupe. It just has to do with the amount of water in it. So, and not that you have to be like a dietitian and measure everything out, but if you measure it, maybe for 2 weeks, you're going to be able to eyeball it. And so you can be more mindful. You can be more mindful about what you're putting into your body. So this list you can download for free. All right, next slide. Now, what do calories have to do with our bodies, with maintaining our weight? So what I want you to know is that each of us has a basal energy expenditure, which is the number of calories that our body requires to use each day just to run our organs, our muscles, our brain. So the number of calories you need, this is the number of calories you need just to lay in bed to help you breathe and run your organs, okay? That is what your basal energy expenditure is. Next slide. So you can find out what your basal energy expenditure is by going to mdcalc.com, and you can put in all the information. And this uses the Harris-Benedict equation. You can add in what your exercise is for weight maintenance if you want to maintain your weight, or if you want to lose weight, you can stick with your basal energy expenditure. Because if you're eating your basal energy expenditure, your organs will get the energy it needs. And then the other energy that you use for your exercise, for going to work, for doing whatever you're doing, that energy will come from your adipose tissue. Now, next slide. Let's look at this. If your basal energy expenditure is 1,500 calories a day, and you need an additional 500 calories for work, daily activities, exercise, the total number of calories you would need to maintain your weight is 2,000 calories. If you eat 1,500 calories, but need 2,000 calories, where are those extra 500 calories going to come from? You can put it in the chat. It will come from your fat tissue. Now, I don't have my notes, so I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. Go to the next slide. I think it's the next one. Yes, let's stick with this. Correct. It's the adipose tissue, because adipose tissue does not use energy. Adipose tissue is stored energy. Okay? So the people, if you work out at a gym and you have somebody next to you on the elliptical and they're going, oh, I burned 500 calories today. And then they say, I think I'm going to drink a martini tonight, or I'm going to eat this tonight. And because they burned those calories, guess what? Go back to the previous slide. Guess what? They're not. They're going to maintain their weight because that is not going to be coming from the adipose tissue then. They're going to be eating those calories. Go on to the next slide. And the next one. There's an article in the blog section on my website. It's called The Mathematics of Weight Loss. It just goes through the slides we just went through, but it's an actual blog article that you can download. If you want to share it, you can share it, certainly. Okay, go to the next slide. So now what happens if you eat less than the basal energy expenditure? You've known people who've done this. 900 calorie diet, 800 calorie diet, 500 calorie diet, fasting for more than 24 hours. I had one client who told me she joined a Facebook fasting group and she was fasting 30 hours. I said, okay, we're going to do the lesson on fasting today. Next slide. What happens? The body is going to shut down. The body always works to preserve itself. So your body will go into hypometabolism. And the body will start to go to your muscle to make energy. It's called gluconeogenesis before it goes to the fat tissue. It's going to break down your muscle before it breaks down the fat. So this is why people who follow these very low-calorie diets, or the Americans who think less is more, can, when they stop their diet plan, they gain the weight back and more because they have broken down their lean muscle mass. Now, there are those of us in this group who remember Karen Carpenter. And remember, Karen Carpenter was an anorexic when she, was singing with her brother. She died 10 years after she was in recovery. Now, do you know why she died? She died of heart failure. Because when she was anorexic, she broke down her heart tissue. This is serious. This is very serious. Less is not more. Our body is an organism that needs to be taken care of. It needs to be valued. And our heart is a muscle. And it needs protein, and it runs on glucose. So you need to make for sure that you're eating an adequate diet. All right, next slide. Take a So do not diet. Take a deep breath in on this one. Those of us, I'm having some reaction to what I just talked about. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm having a reaction because those of us who are champions, those of us who have lived through this, this is important stuff. We have to take care of our hearts. So do not diet. This is a nutrition wheel that I had designed for my business. And that is because the micronutrients that are in our food or in supplements help the macronutrients do their job in our body. All right. Next, how to eat normally. It is not normal to eat 600 calories a day. It is not normal to not have a piece of birthday cake at your birthday. It is not normal to not enjoy whatever homemade, whatever your grandmother's famous dessert or special dish was for a holiday. Those recipes are wonderful, and they have more meaning than just the calories or the nutrient content. They warm your heart, and they have meaning about our culture, and they have meaning about our ancestry. You better believe I have Danish Kringle on Christmas morning because that's Christmas to me. So, but what do I do the other days? I try and eat normally. And we want to eat what we know is the Mediterranean diet has been proven to help with heart disease. We know that the vegan diet reverses heart plaque. It has been proven to reverse heart plaque. And then the mind diet helps with dementia and early dementia, which is essentially the Mediterranean diet with berries and coconut oil and healthy fats. Okay, next slide. So, what all these diets have in common, they all have in common is none of them have processed foods. We can see here, you know, we have nuts, we have seeds, we have berries. Look, you know, we have a fig here, cereal. So all of these diets use real unprocessed foods because what we're finding, in fact, I don't have it handy, but there's a book that was written by an internal medicine doctor from the UK. His name is Van Tolken, Dr. Van Tolken. And he wrote a book called Ultra Processed People. What we're finding, what the new research is finding about all these processed foods is that it is actually changing the shape of our brains. And it is linked to early dementia. It's linked to shrinking of the prefrontal cortex of our brains. And that's why we're having younger people that are having increased anxiety. They're not able because the prefrontal cortex is where we make our executive decisions, planning. And kids are not able to plan. They're not able to think ahead. They're not good test takers anymore. This is shrinking the prefrontal cortex. The book is called Ultra Processed People. And he has tremendous research. He has the back of the book is probably about 20 pages of resources. All right, next slide. So, thank you very much. Do we have time? I think we have time for questions.